Welcome in. So go ahead, put those questions in there. We do have some things that we wanted to talk to you guys about, but we're here to answer your questions as well. So go ahead and put those in the comments, and then Bob and I will kind of filter through those. And, we'll get your questions. But let's start it off. Oh, look at that. Intern's popping in and saying good morning. Hi, Sean.
Hi,
I
Sean.
asked Sean to be on today as well, because we like getting Sean on the air. But Sean's been having some computer problems lately, unfortunately, and I believe he's spending some time with family this weekend. Regardless of how many times I told him that we are his family now, but Sean gonna Sean. So let's get to it, shall we, Bob?
Yep. So we got a question already, and we got some other ones that came in last night already too that I have written down that aren't here. But what's fair to get Jamar Chase when I want to give T Higgins? So a tier up trade, T Higgins to Jamar Chase. What do you think is fair value there?
This is going off memory. We talked about something like this on the show last week, did we not? The ADP discrepancy between Jamar Chase and T Higgins. I think I threw that out there for a little bit.
I don't know if it was Jamar Chase, but I know we had T Higgins in there. T Higgins is like wide receiver 6, I believe.
I thought he was like 7 or 8, but I know Jamar Chase is wide receiver 1 right now.
Yeah.
So really, the problem is you're not really tearing up so much, but the value that people are placing on Jamar Chase is insane. If it was me, I wouldn't be trying to get Jamar Chase for T Higgins, but that's not the question at hand here. I think what we're probably thinking is a fair deal is T Higgins, and I would start with like a second, maybe a 2023 second, and just keep in mind, again, you're still in the same tier. The ADP is not that far off, but it might take a 23 first to get that trade done just because people are so high on Jamar Chase. And listen, don't overpay for Jamar Chase. I love Jamar Chase, loved him as a prospect, love him as an NFL player, but you might have to overpay to get this guy. And that's just how it is. You could be able to use the assets that you have to move to get him to bolster your roster elsewhere, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Bob?
Yeah, I think that 23 first is pretty fair, especially if you think you're mid to back end of the first round, which I hope you are if you're making this kind of deal. I think that's pretty fair. And I think start at the second, see what happens. I doubt you're going to get it done for that. Just because, like you said, with what Jamar Chase is going for in leagues, I mean, it's insane, some of the hauls I've seen for him. So it's one of those things. I don't mind the move. I definitely prefer Chase over Higgins. And I mean, they're definitely different tiers in my opinion. But so, yeah, I think that 23 first would be pretty fair. Plus Higgins to get Chase. If you can get that done, awesome. I think I'm pretty happy with that. We got our buddy Dane chopping in. Just wondering what appropriate value is if I'm selling Saquon in a rebuild 10-team PPR Superflex. In my opinion, you need to get a first-round pick plus to move Saquon, or I think you still can. Saquon has such upside, in my opinion. I think if you're not, you need to at least equate value to a first-round pick. So you need to be getting a decent rookie wide receiver this year, a decent wide receiver, something like that, or other running back, whatever the case is, kind of tier down. Because I think the upside is still there with Saquon. And I mean, granted, I think it's only a 2-year, 3-year window tops what you have with Saquon. I've been the resident Saquon truther this offseason for the channel.
You have been.
So I think if I'm moving him in a rebuild, that's kind of the mark I want to aim for. Something in that 23 first plus range, ideally. He is still a running back with immense upside. So there is that. Moving on to the next one. Did you have anything to add to that one quick before we move on?
No, I completely agree with you on that as well.
Okay. All right. So what should I be looking for if I traded Cooper Kupp for Justin Jefferson? So I'm assuming going from Cooper Kupp to Jefferson?
That's what it looks like to me.
Okay. Man, that's a good one because they're still Justin Jefferson, I think, is the wide receiver 2.
Really team dependent too. I feel like this is really league and team dependent because obviously if you're moving Cooper Kupp, I don't know if this trade makes sense because I got to be honest with you. These are players that are going on that should be on contending teams. You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
but you're getting a lot younger at Jefferson. I mean, it's
True.
same box. It's just harder to move. I think because the gap shouldn't be that big, but it is going to be because Justin Jefferson's only what 22 this year.
Let me get some
Cooper Cup,
ADP up while we're doing this. All right, Bob.
go ahead.
Just
No,
so
you're
we can
fine.
use that
Cooper
as
Cup,
reference.
obviously older, but still, I mean, been relatively healthy outside of the ACL year. So I mean, you still got probably 3-4 years of really good production out of Cooper Cup, whereas Justin Jefferson, you have probably double that at least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think you need to spend too much if you're moving from Cooper Cup to Jefferson. I think it's kind of similar to Higgins to Chase. I think you started a second, and even that might be a little rich, honestly. Because like I said, I think DLF ADP right now, I'm pretty sure Cooper Cup is like still a top 5 option on ADP right now. I'm pretty sure. I could be
Wide
wrong.
receiver 4. This
Yeah,
is a June
right
startup.
behind.
And if you go to just June super flex, that still puts him at, I don't think that moves him at all. He's still wide receiver 4 there as well. So,
Yeah,
and Justin Jefferson is, let me just
1 or
get
2
wide receiver here. Justin Jefferson is wide receiver 2.
should be
Yeah.
1.
So the 1 through 5 is Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Cup, and Devontae Adams with AJ Brown just outside the top 5. So, yeah, I mean, again, you're really,
yeah, I mean, you're doing the move to get younger.
yeah,
You're tiering, excuse me, you're tiering up to get younger. It's an interesting move. I mean, I think, but the thing is, the person you're selling him to, or you're moving Cooper Cup to for Jefferson, knows that. I mean, that's a tough move to make. I think just because they're so close, but not in a way. It's an interesting move, to say the least. Cooper Cup to Jefferson, but those are my 2 cents. I think started a second. I'm not paying a first to make that move. I'll throw in some other, you know, wide receiver 3s with upside along with that second if I have to, but
I really
I'm
feel
not
like
bumping that up to a first.
these are the 2 main pieces here. Of course, in any trade, you have your
Yeah.
main pieces. These are the 2 main pieces. So basically, everything else that gets moved around should be considered add-ins or, a little bit of, I don't want to say roster cloggers, but, some lower level picks because you have to be careful with trades like this. You move too much to get one player, and you're one injury away from just completely screwing your team over, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I
Absolutely.
think a fair deal, like if you're trading away Cooper Cup, let's say, the guy that's getting Cooper Cup has Justin Jefferson. He really wants to make a push. He likes Cooper Cup with Matthew Stafford, thinks there's some good long-term value there. I'm like, listen, you give me Justin Jefferson and like, I don't know, what if you could finagle, like we always think of player and pick, like, hey man, you're pretty down on CEH. Give me Justin Jefferson and CEH for Cooper Cup. CEH has a bounce back year. I'm just saying like something like that. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it doesn't have to be CEH. It could be like CEH, Miles Sanders. Maybe you want to just try to take a shot on a guy that the dynasty community is down on that has some good upside with depressed value. And like a 3rd or 4th round pick, couple picks, maybe $3 fab to get the chains moving there. Stuff
Yeah.
like that. Not every aspect of the trade needs to wow you per se.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I don't hate that. I just don't think you're getting plus assets in return when you're moving Cooper Cup to Jefferson.
Well, you also think Jalen Waddle's better than T. Higgins, Bob. So let's.
Hey man, it is what okay, I say that, but I need people to know that it's not like I think they're worlds apart. I just prefer Waddle.
That's fine.
That's all it is.
That's fine.
If it's anything, it's like a 1. So follow up with Dane. If I can get a 23 first and Ayuk for Saquon, I don't love Ayuk, but the 23 first I'm already pretty happy with. So this is kind of one of those deals you're talking about where somebody that the community's depressed on in Ayuk, not a bad option. I mean, he's
I
probably
feel
wide
like
receiver 2 at best, but
you
and I
should
feel
be
like
able
maybe
to.
you could do better.
Yeah, you
But
could get a little bit more than that. For
maybe
if
toss in a 3rd.
I mean, if it's
I don't know.
Saquon for a 23 first straight up, then yeah, I'm okay with that. But when you're putting in a guy who does, we've seen the potential with
He's
Ayuk.
selling he's selling it Saquon here. This is
Oh,
a
he's
follow-up.
selling Saquon. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. Then yeah, I'm sorry. Forgive me, I read that wrong. If you're getting that for Saquon, then okay. Yeah, I'm all right with that then. Sorry. I
Good
mean,
deal.
take a shot on Ayuk. People are down on him, but we've seen what he could do. I'd be happy to get
Right.
Ayuk. My bad, Dean. Sorry.
So this guy, oddly enough, just moved Cooper Cup.
Okay. This
Got in
will help
return,
value.
Chris Godwin, Robert Tunyon, Zach Wilson, 2 24 seconds in the 22-304. I mean, I got into it with not into it, but I had this discussion with Anthony in the Discord community group chat the other day on Patreon. And the thing about this that I already love, you're getting it's only a one quarterback, which whatever, but you're getting 6 assets for one player. And I
Good
don't know if the
assets too.
value, yeah, I mean, they're decent assets. Those 24 seconds are going to be awesome when they get to you, but it's obviously going to take a while for that to mature. But I mean, Godwin's a great asset. Top 10, should be a top 10-ish, top 12 dynasty wide receiver.
Wide receiver
Tunyon is
18
somebody,
right now.
somebody you're kind of buying low on. Zach Wilson, same deal. I don't know. I think it's so many assets. You can do so much with those assets because
Yeah.
you don't have to draft people. You
Right.
can use those assets to tier up to improve other positions. I don't hate it.
I like it. You got Younger at wide receiver.
Yeah.
You got your wide receiver and your tight end are coming off an injury, so you're taking a risk there. But you got a quarterback who people are down on, who I'm pretty high on, Zach Wilson. Got a couple picks. You can use those picks to move around in. If you have done your rookie draft already, that's fine. You could use those picks to move around in your 2023 draft too. I like the trade. I like the trade a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, there's some risk there with Godwin and Tunyon, but there's risk in every potential trade as well. So I like the deal.
Sure.
Good job,
All
Matt.
right. With all that said, you want to take our first shot at a segment here, Mike? You want to open up your segment talking about an early 2023 prospect here, and then we'll
I
get
would
back
love
to
to.
Q&A in a minute.
Bob, I would love to do this, and I'm going to. And I want to talk about USC wide receiver Jordan Addison. So Jordan Addison played at Pitt last year. He did win the Bolitnikoff. Thank you for putting that on the sheet, Bob. I forgot to put that on there. The Bolitnikoff Award winner is the best wide receiver in college. So that kind of says something if you're the best wide receiver in college. Now, my comp to him, I see a little bit of Jahan Dotson in him. Can kind of do everything, play all over the field. Size-wise, they're pretty close. I think Jordan Addison's about an inch taller, roughly. Stretch the field. He's smooth, explosive after the catch. He can be a complete wide receiver. He did transfer to USC. Why is this important? He went from a pro-style offense at Pitt to USC. He got a quarterback upgrade. Keaton Slovis going from USC to Pitt. Jordan Addison goes from Pitt to USC, but he's going to Lincoln Riley's system. He's going to be playing with Caleb Williams. I'm not a Keaton Slovis guy, to be honest with you. I've watched some film on him, just kind of out on him a little bit. Why is that good? This system has produced some pretty decent wide receivers in the NFL. CeeDee Lamb, Marquise Brown. These guys have been relevant to your fantasy teams. So that's important to note. Not so much for quarterbacks, though. If I may say, Baker Mayfield, we don't know what's going to happen with him. Kyler Murray battled some injuries. So, Spencer Rattler is now in South Carolina, which is just weird. 2021, 100 catches, 1,593 yards, 17 touchdowns. He did rush the ball for 7 carries, 56 yards, and 1 touchdown. My only question is he a product of Kenny Pickett, or did he make Kenny Pickett look good? That's going to be the question.
I have a response to this question, and I think it's an awesome question. And I think it's the fact that the NFL decided to wait on Kenny Pickett till pick 20 or whatever it was. Tells me they're not high on the quarterback. I think that means that they don't think he made Addison. Addison was able to get the best wide receiver in college award. Kenny Pickett didn't. I don't even think he sniffed Heisman consideration, or at least like actually getting it. But
I don't know. But in all fairness, Heisman and NFL quarterback means nothing to me. Troy Smith won a Heisman. So it's just one of those things. Like, to me, hey, that just shows that you're the best college player, and best college player doesn't mean you're going to be the best NFL player. It doesn't always translate. So to me, now that translates more if I see like a Heisman caliber running back, wide receiver. Devonta Smith won the Heisman. I think Devonta Smith is going to be a great pro. Might be a little bit better for the Eagles and your fantasy team, just the way that team is built right now. But to me, that doesn't really mean much. I think Kenny Pickett's going to be fine. by the way. I don't think he's ever going to be like a world beater, top 5
Yeah, I
quarterback.
agree.
But if you're like, oh, for fantasy, he's Kirk Cousins, sign me up. I'll take it.
I think more Ryan Tannehill after he,
Okay.
obviously went to the Titans. I think that just because of the mobility factor, he has a little more mobility than a Kirk Cousins, so he has at least some
True.
rushing upside.
Yeah.
But I definitely think he's going to be a guy that he's a sum of his parts. That's what
True.
he's going to be.
Got some good
And
parts out in Pittsburgh, though. For
exactly. And
sure.
that's where I'm like, hey, a easy smash pick in Superflex drafts in the first round. For me, I'm willing to take him probably around that. I'll easily take him around the 1.8. I grabbed him in the 1.9 in one of my leagues.
Can I just
But
say one thing?
go ahead.
You're talking about rookie drafts here. This is why I prefer to do my rookie drafts after the NFL draft.
Sure. Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Because you could have taken Malik Willis at the 1-3
Or earlier.
or earlier. Some people had him earlier. And now Malik Willis, Matt Corral, these guys, we've seen other skill players that they just fall, and other skill players they get elevated because of their draft capital. Again, this is why I prefer doing the rookie draft after the NFL draft. And there's some people that like to do it way later in the summer, like in training camps. I'm fine with that as well because a lot can happen between May and August. We see it all the time.
Yeah. No. I 100% agree. I like Addison. He was one of the first, next year prospects I kind of dove into just because I was scouting Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
And I texted Nate and I'm like, dude, is this Jordan Addison guy good? And obviously he's been on Debbie radars for a minute now.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, Bob, he's pretty good. And I felt really validated by that. I just happened to be, checking him out. I'm like, yo, I really like this Jordan Addison guy. And he's like, everybody does.
The surprising
Congratulations. So,
there is that Nate responded to a text message.
true. That is
He
always difficult.
he does that sometimes, but Nate, we love you.
Right. All right. You ready to hop back into some questions here and get back on this? All right. We got one coming in from our DFS / best ball contributor here at the Rewind, with Delaney Walker averaging 126, 82, 999 yards with 6 touchdowns with the Titans / Mariota / Arthur Smith before his injuries took over. Is this kind of the floor for Kyle Pitts, do we think? And is it potentially the last time to buy Kyle Pitts before it gets out of control? And I think it's already out of control to try to buy Kyle Pitts, for one. I don't think – I think maybe there's a buy low window because of the quarterback situation, but you have to consider with Kyle Pitts, the dude is 21 years old and already the tight end, easily the tight end 1. Maybe you make an argument for tight end 2 just because Kelsey's still kicking around. But, I mean, no, you have to have the end goal in mind here with Kyle Pitts, with how long he's going to be sitting atop the tight end landscape that is barren outside of the top 5 or 6 regularly. So I think that window is probably already gone.
Good luck
buying Kyle Pitts. And I think there's a chance that that's a floor. I wouldn't say that. I think he's going to be a guy that operates with a little more efficiency, but I think he is going to have a lot of volume in that offense too. But I think Kyle Pitts is going to be more of that kind of an efficiency monster, just because I think he's such a great player. I don't think he's going to need a lot of work to be great for your fantasy team. So, but
good luck getting Kyle Pitts, everybody.
Yeah, right. All right. Cruz Ruiz, another patron, diving on in. What's Zeke's value in a 12-team PPR? One guy needs our running backs, and he's willing to give up the 105 to get Zeke. I'm pretty okay with that. I don't know about you. You're still in that top tier wide receivers. You're getting either one of the top 3 wide receivers in the class, top 5, depending on how you look at that top tier, or one of the 2 running backs. Obviously, you're not getting Breece Hall at the 105. If you,
if you somehow do,
kudos.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine with that. I think that's pretty good value for Zeke right now. I think everybody kind of hates Zeke right now. So it's, I think that's pretty good value for what, you can get for him. I'd do it. I don't know about you.
I'll do it.
Good deal.
They're going to run the ball in Dallas for sure.
For sure. Corey diving in, rebuilding 12-team PPR Superflex non-tight end premium, traded Deontay and a 24 first-round pick for Olave and a 23 first. This gave you my 6th 23 first. I think
Yeah.
this is an interesting move. I think it's interesting kind of because it really you're paying to get into the 2023 draft versus the 24 draft, and you're hoping at that point you're backing up your 24 first to be on the back end. I don't hate it. I think there's probably a little meat left on the bones. I think it's just kind of I don't think it's a dumb trade at all, and I don't think it's meh. I think it's definitely interesting, and I love Olave too
I
for what
like it.
that's worth.
So do
I
I.
think there's a good chance he's the wide receiver one on the Saints this year. I don't even know if that's a hot take anymore.
No,
But
the thing is, people were down on Olave just because they were so high on Garrett Wilson.
sure.
Just kind of like how people were a little bit down on John Mechie because they were so high on Jamison Williams. If Chris Olave and John Mechie are your consolation prizes because you can't get those guys, you're still going to end up being really happy. You might even be happier because of the ADP that you're paying for them. I love this trade. To be honest with you, you have 2 years to get that 24 first back, and you have 623 first. The fact of the matter is you could completely reload your roster in the first round next year, or I mean, you can do so many things by owning that draft, that first round next year. This is fantastic. I love Olave too. For as much as we like Deontay, the fact of the matter is this: Deontay, you're playing with either Mitchell Trubisky or you're playing with Kenny Pickett. So he's got a new quarterback either way. Olave, he's got Jameis Winston, guy who's got a lot of experience in this league. Okay. Deontay drops a lot of passes too. I just called him Deontay drops, and it did not do that on purpose, believe it or not. He dropped some balls.
Old
He had
news.
some issues last year. So I'm fine with this. I think you got some damn good value. To be honest with you, you upgraded it across the board. Pick wise, the wide receiver wise, has yet to be seen, but I love the trade. Love it.
Yeah.
Good job,
I don't
Corey.
know. I'm a huge Deontay truther now, so
I like
I'm a
Deontay too.
bandwagoner, I guess. I wasn't on him early.
Nate got you on
I
that
am.
bandwagon, didn't
Yes,
he?
he did.
For
Yes, he
sure.
did. And well, and the thing is, so for me, just kind of talking about that, refining your process in a way like I don't I like players to an extent, and then when I see that they're just not going to be what I hope they'd be, awesome. If I end up not out on somebody but lower on somebody, and they show me like Deontay did that even with all the drops, he can still be a top 10 wide receiver in Dynasty or a top 10 wide receiver on the year at least with an aging quarterback who is fallen off. I'm not too
Yeah.
worried about that. So let's dive into the next one here. 12 team, one quarterback dynasty, Josh Allen, Etienne, and Walker. Hold on, let me see this here. All right, so Josh Allen, Etienne, and Walker, Chase, Jefferson, DJ Moore, Bateman, Pitt, and 2023 ones. I have some aging Giants in my league. Go all in or try to win in 2023. Jeez, I have a tough time reading this morning.
That is a long trade, but he is also
It's not a trade. It's just his team.
It's his team. I'm
build. What do
sorry.
you think his team can do this year? I think I'm riding this season out because if you look at what you have, ETN, that offense is still kind of forming. Walker is still said to be the second there. It's apparently going to be the Rashad Penny show this year. For how long that
Believe it
lasts?
when I see it.
For how long that lasts, I don't know. Chase and Jefferson, awesome. DJ Moore, I would be trying to move.
Same.
Just because perennially overvalued, rarely meets expectation. Yes, he might have Baker Mayfield coming in as his quarterback, might have Jimmy G, who knows. Either way,
Might
it's
have Sam Darnold.
for what you can get for value for him right now still in a lot of leagues. I'm willing to move him. Bateman, awesome. You have an awesome core at wide receiver there. Pitt's going to be in a newly forming offense, but those 2023 firsts, you're kind of asking the question, do I pitch those 23 firsts to add to this arsenal you already have? And I think if you can spend them on younger players that still have years to go in their lifespan of dynasty, have that. But I think this team, you could make a competitive push now. I curious at what it really ends up being, but I don't know. I'm probably sitting on it and waiting and trying to move more along the way. The rest is awesome though. I like the rest of the team a lot.
I'm trying to move DJ Moore. He's still the wide receiver 13 right now, above Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, Mike Evans, Drake London, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen. A lot of these guys I'd rather have over DJ Moore. More consistent, just better fantasy producers. But if you're going to make the push now, I'm moving DJ Moore. You have Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Rashad Bateman. So you have what could be a very elite trio of starting wide receivers. You don't necessarily need DJ Moore. You can get somebody that has some youth and some better upside from this class. But if you're doing things like that, I'm moving unknown commodities like Travis Etienne. I'm moving some of my 23 first and trying to get some proven players in my running back room, because to me, that's your weakness right now, because it's a lot of question marks. Travis Etienne is still a question mark coming off an injury in a new offense. Kenneth Walker is a question mark. He's never stepped foot on the field, much like Travis Etienne in the NFL. And like Bob said, Rashad Penny is the guy in Seattle, which he's got to make it healthy through training camp. I don't know. That's, to me, that's your only soft spot is your running back room. So I think you have a good case to make the push now, but you're going to have to do some moving around to do it. But at worst, this is a playoff team, I'd say. Just this core that we're seeing right here.
And if it's not, I mean, if you're probably on the tail end of making the playoffs, so you're a top 6 pick next year, not too bad, not a bad consolation prize when you have 2023 firsts. Hopefully those other ones are in the top 6 as well, because I mean, if you're in the top 6 next year with 3 picks, you're fixing a lot of issues on this team. I mean, you're drafting at least one running back. You're probably getting one of the better wide receivers in this class, especially in one quarterback. So, but let's
move
along.
Real quick, I have a toddler downstairs giving my wife some fits. So I'm just going to excuse myself for 1 minute.
Sure.
I'll be right back. Okay. I'm just going to remove myself. I'll be right back.
Good deal. I'll take it over. It's the Bob Show now, everybody. Have fun with that. So real quick, I'm going to talk this one here. Which side do you like? Lamar, Waddle, 2023 third, and I'm assuming 2023 third and a fifth, or Kenneth Walker, McLaurin, and Wandale. I'm assuming this is a super flex. Maybe I shouldn't be, because otherwise you're getting, it has to be a super flex. I lean towards the Lamar and the Waddle side. Going with a quarterback, an elite quarterback at that, and a super flex. Pretty awesome getting some picks. Kenneth Walker, McLaurin, Wandale is kind of a nothing for me at this point, just not a huge fan. So I'm going to take the Lamar, Waddle, and 23 third and fifth side if I can. Moving on to Ryan's question, tearing down from Devontae Adams to a younger wide receiver with upside like Michael Pittman, Rashad Bateman, Jerry Jeudy, or Elijah Moore in a future first. Which one of those would I prefer to get? I would, out of that bunch, I'd love to get Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman just has so much opportunity with a quarterback who's proven that he can still keep wide receivers viable. There's a lot of hype around Michael Pittman, but we know that Matt Ryan's been, kind of trailing off. I know he's definitely behind a more improved offensive line than he has been. So you could make the argument there. If you move to Jeudy or Elijah Moore, I think you can get a little more than that future first as well. Hi, Mike. Welcome back. Did you have any thoughts on this trade here?
Tearing down from Devontae Adams to a younger wide receiver with upside like Pittman, Bateman, Jeudy or Elijah Moore in a future first. Of those, which one would I target? I'll rank them. I would go Bateman, Jeudy, Pittman, and Moore in that order. Okay. And the reason why is I think Bateman is the 1A in that offense. The 1B is Mark Andrews. Jeudy, I love what I perceive Denver's offense is going to be. I don't know exactly what Indianapolis is going to look like as far as the wide receiver room. I think Pittman's still the 1A there as far as receivers go, but I feel like that's going to be a very, very heavy run offense. And Elijah Moore, smaller wide receiver. New York has a lot of options, a lot of weapons now. Like, also, I'm kind of like a low-key Jets fan this year. Like, they're my other team. I want the Jets to do well. You know what I mean? Like, they've been bad for so long. I just want them to stop sucking. So that's how I would do it. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I hate moving Devontae Adams. I know he's almost 30, but I feel like he's one of those guys that still has potentially 5 years of top-end fantasy production left. So, if you're targeting a future first, go for that 23. You don't want to wait 2 years to recoup your assets here, in my opinion.
I agree. If you can do that. Let's do one more here, and then we'll get to another little segment we have prepped for y'all. From Stickman, 10-team Superflex start 9. Would you trade Debo and a 23-second to get Cooper Kupp, trying to win now, but also not mess up my future or mess up the future of my team? This is interesting.
It's
I
very
think I'm sticking with Debo here
okay.
personally. I think the reason why is because I think everybody's so down on and if you're down on Debo, the reason should be because Trey Lance is going to be quarterback. It should not be because he's not going to be running back Debo anymore. If you look at last year's stats, running back Debo versus wide receiver Debo, they were off by 0.8 points per game last year. The first 8 weeks of the season when he was just wide receiver Debo versus running back Debo, not a lot of difference between those 8 games of usage there. So if you're down on Debo because of Trey Lance, I'm understanding there, but don't be down on him because of the fear that he's not going to be running back Debo anymore. And just you're younger than Cooper Kupp by a little bit. Keep that 23-second, which a lot of the Devy community is touting is going to be similar to a late 22 first this year. So I'm going to just keep the picks and roll with the assets I have at this point. I don't think the value is terrible if you want to move to Cooper Kupp, however, but I just don't think you have to here personally.
I agree with that. I don't hate the trade if that's what you want to do to get Cooper Kupp and you feel like that's what's going to push your team over the hump to win it. If you think this trade's going to help you win, I say do it. I don't hate either side, to be perfectly honest with you. Agree with everything you said about Trey Lance. You know, it's super flex league, so there's going to be some really good value left in the second round next year because a lot of people are going to like a lot of these quarterbacks, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. I be honest with you, CJ Stroud's okay. I'm not a big Bryce Young guy. We'll get into that at some point. I'll tell you all about it. But the second round is going to be really chock full of talent. But again, if you think this is what you need to bring home a championship and win some money, I'd say do it. I also wanted to say Stickman's the name of a beer company outside of Philadelphia, Stickman Brewing. Fantastic beer. Fantastic.
Good deal. All right. So moving on to my little mini segment here.
Bob's
And
favorite
this
segment
was
of the show.
probably no, I liked yours. Don't give me that. Don't do me like that. But so this question was asked a while ago in a team audit, and I just thought it was interesting. So the question was just how do you acquire running backs without overpaying? The answer is it's hard because everybody, no matter what the running back is, who the running back is, it's almost always overvalued just because there's such a positional scarcity. And everybody doesn't want to move a running back without getting a running back. So how do you acquire them at value without overpaying and not, ruining yourself for the future? The first tip I have for avoiding or acquiring running backs without overpaying, avoid the guys like Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, Najee, DeAndre Swift. And you could probably throw Breece Hall into that mix now too. I think he's already kind of
I agree.
in that essence. The big thing with that is these guys are just already top tier. It's the same thing across the board at all positions. It's hard to acquire the guys that are solidified in that top tier talent. It's just hard. You're not going to get them without overpaying. And not saying that a lot of the overpays aren't kind of worth it for what you're adding to your team, but you shouldn't be overpaying when you have little assets to start with. If you're a team that just kind of chills with the draft picks that you're given and you're not adding assets down the road and churning over assets to get picks and players back and increasing your asset pool, definitely not a move you should be making. You shouldn't be diluting your whole run of assets to make moves at these guys. The second bit I have is the cheapest way to get running backs is to draft them. If you're drafting them, whether it's a startup, whether it's a rookie draft, but the important thing in the rookie draft and even your startups is to not overdraft them, and particularly in rookie drafts. I mean, we saw it this year already. Guys that we thought were overdrafted in a lot of our mock drafts. James Cook was one that we felt was pretty overdrafted.
Big time.
Dameon Pierce was one we felt was kind of overdrafted in some drafts. Some drafts he went pretty appropriately, but Tyler Algier was another one I thought was overdrafted a lot of the time. And Tyron Davis-Price, another one that I thought was overdrafted from time to time. But so if you have guys that are solidified in that top tier, like this year, for example, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, and after that, it's pretty murky. Whatever discussion or conversations you want to have. Rashad White still at day 2 draft capital in a murky situation behind Leonard Fournette, clearly behind Leonard Fournette. He's not going to start over him. Tyron Davis-Price, murky situation in San Francisco. He's going to get an opportunity, but I know a lot of us didn't like him as a prospect to begin with. Interesting room there. So draft them, but don't be reaching on them over better talent. When you have Chris Olave at the 108 or 109, but you also have Dameon Pierce sitting there and you need a running back, don't go draft Dameon Pierce just because you need a running back and you think he's going to have great opportunity this year. When you could have a wide receiver who I think is going to has an argument to be a top 15 dynasty wide receiver for the span of his career. Then another way to get them without overpaying, buy low, post injury, after a down year, committee running backs or ambiguous backfields is a great time to buy, or a great situation to buy, especially if you can get an edge on the players in your league around you. What are they doing? What are they just lowered on these guys? Are they not paying attention to the camp news? Do they still think James Cook is going to be the running back one over Devin Singletary, even though everything we're hearing out of camp is saying that Devin Singletary is still the one right now? Things like that. Devin Singletary, arguably a great buy low right now, and I think we can both agree there. But post-injury or after a down year, Saquon's a double down of that. After an injury, had a down year. We've seen running backs do really well after they come back a full season after an ACL tear. And wide receivers just don't take as much time to come back from that. It's shown for the most part. The last way to acquire running backs at value without overpaying, or the last way I have for y'all today, 1 year rentals, 1 to 2 year rentals, play redraft. James Conner, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, great examples right now. Whether you're higher or lower on those guys, you can get them for a heck of a lot cheaper right now than a J.K. Dobbins or obviously a Javonte Williams or a Najee Harris, whatever you want to get out of that top tier. And honestly, they're probably going to put up similar numbers by year's end. Ezekiel Elliott is a great one you can buy low on 2 right now. I think he's a little lower than the other guys I mentioned, but if you're getting a running back 2 for whatever value, a lot better than spending the farm when you don't have the assets to spend to go get one of those top tier guys. At the end of the day, sometimes the less sexy running backs just have to be enough, especially, like I said, not damaging your roster in the long term, because diluting your assets is a great way to get yourself into a hole that is going to take years to crawl out of, when you should be trying to accrue assets and just kind of keep greasing the wheel over time. It's just not great. But top tier running backs are a huge investment, and more often than not, one of my greatest dynasty mistakes is spending way too much to grab overhyped running backs. Over the last 2 years, Antonio Gibson was a guy last year. He was okay, but never really great last year. Another guy, Miles Sanders, a couple years back, a lot of hype around him. Spent a lot to go get him. And don't buy in on the overhyped running backs, for one. Don't buy in on the big names. Buy low after down years or injuries, whatever you can do. And those 1 year rentals are a big deal. Go get running backs that, if you can't draft them, go get running backs that aren't going to cost a huge detriment to the longevity of your team. Anything to add there, Michael?
I do. One thing, Gav. Yeah, I know Deontay Johnson dropped 6 passes on 100 targets last year. You're telling me to stop. I get it. Yeah, he also led the league in drops in 2020. So that could always come back, just so you know. And looking at just some DLF ADP, we'll start at running back 19. Antonio Gibson very well could lead that backfield. Leonard Fournette, David Montgomery, Ezekiel Elliott, Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Elijah Mitchell, A.J. Dillon, James Conner, Miles Sanders, and then I'm going to pass over James Cook, but Tony Pollard at running back 30 is another guy I like. Damian Harris at running back 31 could have a fantastic season. Use him. They'll use him up, abuse him, and then drop him. There's value here in this range. And these are guys you don't have to overpay for. Everyone's down on Elijah Mitchell because TDP is there. Elijah Mitchell is still the starting running back for the 49ers until further notice. Miles Sanders has no competition. There's a possibility that, I don't know what Aaron Jones is going to do. Maybe A.J. Dillon has a great year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire could bounce back. Josh Jacobs. Everybody hates Josh Jacobs now. So there's some risk involved here. However, the ceiling is extremely high. So that's – and Joe Webb saying go get A.J. Dillon. I don't hate that. And I'm not a big A.J. Dillon guy, but we do have to consider what could be.
Yeah. It's not bad. I think it really, that one's real league and who you're trying to buy him from dependent, because there's leagues that I'm in that I know I could probably go get him for a second round pick. There's other leagues where it's going to cost me a 23 first. And and when it's that much, I'm not overly interested unless I'm very confident I'm going to be in the championship game.
Marlon Mack, running back 56.
Sure.
Could be heavily used. So you almost, I mean, like if you want, you got to just take some high upside guys, a little bit of zero RB in there, almost swing for upside, 1 year rentals. I love what you're saying, Bob, and I completely agree with it. And it could be one of those things where you have a team where people are laughing at your running backs, but these guys stay healthy all year.
Sure.
And they produce. So,
yep. And the thing is too, is if you didn't spend much to get them and they get hurt, whereas if you spend the world to get Javonte Williams
and he gets hurt,
you're in a world of hurt, And I mean, I know you didn't have him anyway, but if you're sending 3 starting pieces or a pick, whatever, those are 3 starting assets that might be healthy that you might be out of. So let's move on, get back into some questions here. 10-team Superflex, Cousins and Madison for Akers and Corral. QB depth, Mahomes, Cousins, Tua, and Mariota. I am firmly in on the Cousins and Madison side, I think. And that's just because I'm really low on Corral. I don't hate Akers that much, being that he's a decent enough running back, I think. But Cousins, especially with you also have Mariota sitting there. You keep yourself with 3 firm starters for the long term, in my opinion. I think that's the big thing. I think if you're thinking Mariota is going to be a long-term answer, I'm not as big on that.
And if you think Cam Akers is going to be a long-term answer, could be wrong on that too.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I don't think, I think even if Cam Akers is super healthy, I think which of RB1 is still decent, but I think you're getting a back-end running back 1, which is good, but you're losing a quarterback in a super flex.
Yeah.
So that's just my 2 cents. Moving on. What do you think Mike Evans is worth in a Dynasty Superflex 12-team PPR? What do you think?
Not enough.
Not enough. Yeah.
I mean, the guy is so productive every year, and just like his ADP is so low. He's wide receiver 16.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 16 over, under guys like DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill's ahead of him, DJ Moore is ahead of him. Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman. There's a very real world where Mike Evans has a better year than all these guys, pushing 30. He's 28 years old. I mean, we have 23 first for Mike Evans is fair. You might not even have to pay that. Mike Evans is one of those guys that just goes out there. He does his job. He doesn't talk a lot. And he just doesn't get noticed, but he gets overlooked and he produces every year. I know he's droppable in some formats, according to some people. Remember that, Bob?
Yeah. Oh, I remember those days.
Good times, man. Those are good times. But yeah, man, Mike Evans, I mean, if you're trying to trade for him, I'm going to throw out like a 23 second. And like, that might be one of those deals where like, hey, man, how do you feel about this young wide receiver? Like, what if you could get Mike Evans for Darnell Mooney in a 23 second? Would you do that?
I probably would. I'd definitely be interested.
Darnell Mooney for that.
A name I was thinking instead of Darnell Mooney was actually Gabe Davis. Was actually like another name I thought of, kind of in that same odd mix of players that I think, but I think Mooney is just going to have more opportunity in what he does with it. Who knows? He had 140 targets last year and was, I think, a back end wide receiver 2. So
would you move Amon-Ra St. Brown in a pick for Mike Evans?
It'd have to be a third, but that's because I'm high on Brown. That's more so less that I think it's an overpay. I think it's fair value if you're not as I'm firmly still in the camp that I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's a wide receiver 2.
What about Michael Thomas?
Oh, I'd in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Get him off my team. I don't want him.
He's one of those guys like Michael Thomas, Deshaun Watson. Those are guys where if I'm wrong and they come out and smash, but I don't have to deal with the headache, the what if.
Sure.
Oh, also, I wanted to mention this before going back to your segment. Alvin Kamara could be a guy to buy right now. He's looking like he might get suspended for 6 games. So if you're trying to get somebody on the cheap, I feel like he could be a value right now because of a possible suspension. A lot of people don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I agree with that. I don't hate that, especially if you can get, Mark. Well, you probably can't anymore, but if you can get like a Mark Ingram or Abram Smith or even Tony Jones, even though I think he's a waste of a roster spot for most leagues.
I love roster cloggers.
Yeah, I know you do. So, Corey popping in again. Stafford in a 23 second or Zach Wilson in a 23 first 12 team super flex.
Stafford.
You think, even with that 23 first, that pick flip there?
I mean,
I know
thinking
you
about,
kind of like Zach Wilson.
I do like Zach Wilson, but let's think about, this is one of those things where you might not be able to look at the trade in a vacuum. You know what I mean? You might have to look at where your team's at.
Sure.
So if you're a competing team, I want Stafford and I want the second. If you're young and you take Wilson in the third, I mean, I'm fine with either side, to be honest with you, but one side's competing, the other side's out a little bit. And what's the rest of your quarterback room look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I think
it's sometimes trades like this are really hard to analyze in a vacuum because there's so many things that go into it. But it's one of those things. I'm fine with either side. Just depends on your makeup and where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're getting the Zach Wilson side, I would want to add a third or something. Just give me something more on that side to tip it a little bit, because that 23 first, if you're sending Stafford, that team is likely. See, here's the issue with this trade. Now that I'm looking at it a little more, if you're sending a 23 first or receiving a 23 first from a competing team, that's going to be back end. If you're a rebuilding team and okay with getting Zach Wilson, but you're getting that 23 second, you're maybe upgrading like 6 picks, so you're not really getting a full round of value there. So if you're getting the Zach Wilson side, you definitely need to be getting more asset or another asset back there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Final thought on that. So what do you think I can get for Marcus Mariota in a super flex? I'd be happy with a 23 second, honestly. Yeah. Or the earlier, the better, obviously, but I don't see a long-term answer for Mariota.
Yeah. People also are crowning Desmond Ridder too fast. There's a reality where Mariota holds off Ridder for at least a full season.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Marcus Mariota played pretty good when he was called on with the Raiders. Definitely not the Marcus Mariota that we saw in Tennessee. So,
sure.
But yeah, if I get a 23 second for Mariota, I'm happy with that too, because most likely what you paid for Mariota, if you acquired him recently, the draft capital that you gave up to get him or the waiver claim that you put in for him was probably so low that this is going to be definite. You're definitely cashing in on Mariota.
Right. Here's an interesting one. I know where I'm at on this side. Would y'all trade Treylon Burks, the asthmatic Treylon Burks, Deontay Johnson?
He's fat too, apparently. Don't forget.
A late 23 first and Isaiah Spiller for Justin Jefferson. I'm defending champ and I have plenty of assets, and a total of 4 firsts next year. I'm keeping my assets. I love Justin Jefferson, one of my favorite players in the league. I'm a Packers fan. Still love him as a player. With what Deontay is, what Burks could be, what that 23 first could be, Spiller's kind of a meh option here. I think it's just kind of sprinkling in some value, but I'd much rather have the 4 assets that are there already. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, if you want to make the trade, I think it might be a bit of an overpay.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I mean, Deontay's still going to produce. Treylon Burks, you likely
all the upside in the world.
Drafted him pretty high. So I think this trade is a little bit more fair if you take that first out of it. Now, if you're trading Burks, Deontay, and Spiller, which Isaiah Spiller was likely drafted a little bit later, again, depending on when you did your draft. Again, this is why I like to do my drafts post NFL draft. I'm okay if you take that first out. The first in there makes it a little too rich for me. It would have to be Justin Jefferson plus, in my honest opinion, or I feel like you're overpaying. But then again, if it's Justin Jefferson plus with that 23 first in there, you might not get the trade done. If you can't get the trade done because you're overpaying, I'm fine with that as well. There's a lot of upside in that wideout room. And Isaiah Spiller, man, there's a possibility that he comes out and produces, Austin Eckler's missed time. I think that they want to just put him as more of a receiving back role and let somebody pound between the tackles. So, bit of an overpay, in my opinion. Love Justin Jefferson, though. Really glad the Eagles drafted him. That was great.
What are you doing with Gronk? I have him drop or hold on the off chance he returns from retirement. I'm dropping him. I'm done. There's a chance, but I'm over it.
Trade him for Fab.
If you can, sure. Trade him for whatever somebody would pay to go pick him up off the wire. If you can, I'm over it. I'm done with it. So moving on to the next one here. Do you think it's more important to trade Kelsey to acquire a third 23 first or keep him and have the best chance at winning a third straight championship? Schultz is my current backup. I think I'm willing to move Kelsey at this point because I am not a fan of letting players die on my roster. I love having players that I've had for a long time and, having that journey with them. But I think Schultz has another top 5 tight end year personally. So I think obviously it's a tier down move to go to Schultz, but I think I'm chilling with I'm willing to move Kelsey here personally because I can't get anything for him in the leagues I have him trying to move him. So I'd be more than willing to try to do this.
So I'm fine with going into the season as Dalton Schultz is my number 1 tight end last year. 78 catches, 808 yards, 8 touchdowns.
Sure.
I like it. Yeah. I don't hate moving it, but you need to get somebody else in your tight end room just in case.
Yeah. He does say that he's also not just getting a first, but it's just little assets probably like
see who else they have tight end wise on their roster. Like if it's a guy that you don't mind taking a chance on, like a Brevin Jordan, or even if it's like a Zach Ertz who's aging, someone like that. You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
someone like that.
Yeah,
that's all I got. I don't hate it though. Can we do Dan's question after Peter's? Just skip to that one.
Yeah, we'll do that next. Yeah, I'm standing. But non-superflex traded J.K. Dobbins for a mid at worst 23 first and Chase Claypool. Did I sell at the right time? Did I get enough? I think there's some meat left on the bones, but I mean 23 picks, man. I mean, just awesome. And if Claypool improves on last year, I mean, which he really just lost his touchdown production. He didn't have that much of a worse season outside of that.
Big Ben was just toast.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing with Big Ben last year when I think they were playing in Kansas City, they were like, "Oh, the ball's flying all over the place because the wind's blowing," and it's like, no, I just think that's Ben not throwing great balls anymore because Patrick Mahomes wasn't having any issues.
Dude's got a cannon.
So, big fan of Ben Roethlisberger. I don't want to smack talk too much. Just one of those guys that I think stuck around the league a little longer than he probably should have. But Dan has a very important question.
Can I just say one thing, Peter? I think you could probably get a running back in that range that's more productive than J.K. Dobbins.
Maybe this year. I think J.K. Dobbins is, maybe. We'll see. Dan, very important question. Is Bob sitting or standing? I am standing today. I pretty much always stand nowadays. So
there's another Dan question. He wants me to answer only. We're just going to skip ahead to this. Kate Otten or 2025 third and $2 fab. Dan, you need to take that 2025 third and $2 fab. Okay. He put Kate Otten on the block in the league. So I started the bidding with the lowest assets that I had. I figured we could work our way up from there, Dan. But he didn't want to move Kate Otten, and that's fine. So
fair enough. Robert Williams chiming in, 12-team Superflex PPR. Which side, Eckler or Juju and the 203 Rashad White? I think I'm chilling with Eckler personally. Yeah. I don't think it's particularly close.
He could outproduce both Juju and Rashad White.
Yeah.
Realistically,
I don't think it's. I think you should be, if you're willing to move Eckler, or if you're trying to get Eckler hypothetically. If you're getting Eckler, awesome deal. If you're trying to get him or trying to move him, I should say, I think you can do better than that deal personally. Next one. Non-tight end premium, which side? Pitts or Pitts? I don't care about
Pitts.
the rest.
Yeah.
Pitts.
Doesn't matter.
It should be Pitts, but that is a lot of assets to move
I know it's a
around.
lot of assets, but some of those assets are 2 years out. And this is, I
guess.
still want Pitts because to get a player like a Kyle Pitts only comes along once in a while.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Travis Kelce is what he is now. I don't remember Travis Kelce having this hype when he came out of college.
No, none. I don't know. I don't
Can you
think so.
think of any other tight ends that did? Mark Andrews didn't. I believe
Ebron had a good bit, I think.
Ebron had a good bit. He didn't work out so well. Yeah. I don't remember any other tight end having this much hype, and it's justified. Kyle Pitts is special.
Follow-up question. What do you need to add to the other side to move Pitts here?
I don't want Njoku. I'll be honest with you. Like,
take him out.
But here's the thing: if I have Kyle Pitts and I need a tight end because I'm trading Kyle Pitts, I don't want Njoku. I really don't. Like, I have no interest in David Njoku. I don't want him. I understand that there's not a lot of players on the Browns I want right now. Sure. There's really not. There's a lot of turmoil there. The only guys I really want, I just probably want Nick Chubb. That's about it. Aside from that, I'm kind of out on everybody. I mean, Amari Cooper, if Deshaun Watson plays, could be really good. I don't know what he's going to be with Jacoby Brissett. I don't want anybody on the Browns aside from Nick Chubb. But I also really don't want to move Kyle Pitts. I really don't. Just he's a unicorn, man. Guys like that don't come around very often.
Sure, fair enough. Matt Jones chiming in. I'm really glad he chimed in because he was a guy who left a comment last night to make sure it got in, and for whatever reason they were gone when I came back in here. So
thanks, you
came back. Yeah, right. No kidding. I don't know what happened there, but either way, 10-team Superflex start 9. Which side? Gave up Cousins for a 23 first. I have Russ, Lance, Daniel Jones, and Kenny Pickett. I'm all about the 23 first here.
Yeah. I mean, Russ, Trey Lance, more love Russell Wilson. Trey Lance got some rushing upside there. Daniel Jones could have a resurgent year, maybe, or at least he's something startable. You know, you're going to need, I don't hate it. The only problem is there's a lot of question marks too. You know, Pickett's not going to start the season. Daniel Jones, we don't know. Is Trey Lance really going to start? Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the roster. So there might be a reality you gave up Cousins. You're starting Russell Wilson and Daniel Jones to start the season.
Yeah, I guess. I think that's.
I don't hate the trade. Personally. I don't hate the trade, but I think it's going to work out for you in the long run. You know what I mean? It's just you might have a couple weeks this year with some uncertain quarterback situations, but maybe the rest of your team is good enough. I mean, it's a 10-team league, so I'm assuming your rosters are going to be a little bit stronger than if you had a 12-teamer. So I don't hate it.
Sure. Would you be comfortable as a contender with your running back room being Christian McCaffrey, Cam Akers, Travis Etienne, and Kenneth Walker?
No.
A lot of question marks. A lot of upside, though.
I have, I like these guys. And this, your upside is here with this, and your floor is really way down there. If you're a contender, man, you can realistically flip this quick. You could make Christian McCaffrey into something viable. You know what I mean? You could take some of these guys and not overpay for running backs, like Bob said. You could flip Christian McCaffrey, Cam Akers, and Travis Etienne. You can split the difference, go for some one-year rentals, and you can add some 23 draft capital in the interim. Go get Leonard Fournette. Go get Miles Sanders. Go get Ezekiel Elliott. It's guys like that, guys that are going to stay on the field. I know Miles Sanders had some injuries, but there's no competition there really. Man, you could flip this quick and make yourself a contender this year and next year as well.
Sure. Are Terrace Marshall and Dwayne Eskridge still worth keeping in a half PPR Dynasty league? I'm out.
How deep's your league, man? Like, I'm probably out. I was never a big Eskridge guy.
Sure.
To be honest with you, he's just kind of whatever. And Terrace Marshall, just who do you really want from Carolina? You need to ask yourself that question. They got some quarterback concerns. DJ Moore's kind of whatever. Robbie Anderson's contemplating retirement for some reason.
Because he's not good.
CMC's there. Donta Foreman's there. I don't know, man. I think I'm out on both of these guys.
Yeah, I'm not interested. If there's anybody on the waiver wire that you're even interested in, happy making the swap. 10-team Superflex PPR. What is Stephon Diggs' value? Might trade him to rebuild. I think you're looking for a 23 first plus.
I agree.
Plus like a second, maybe a younger wide receiver who hasn't really broken out yet. Something in that kind of range. Maybe one of those like mid-tier, second-tier rookies that came out this year, like the Pickens, Sky Moore, John Mechie, Alec Pierce range, something
Don't you
like
dare
that.
say George Pickens is a second-tier wide receiver on this live stream. Porkman's going to fly out to Wisconsin and beat you.
Good thing he's not here. Oh, hold on. Just kidding. I think there's more to be. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Well, I think he's adding on to the question from before. We'll go back to that if we get more info. Current championship team, Pitts is my starter. Would you trade Kittle and a very early 23-second for Devonta Smith and Chris Godwin? I'm pretty interested in that.
Yeah.
I don't love Devonta Smith personally.
He's a good wide receiver too on your team.
He's a good wide receiver too in the NFL. I'm not confident in him in fantasy. I like Chris Godwin though a lot. So I think I'm gonna chill with Kittle or try to get more on the other side. Try to get a third. Try to trade down that second or something to get those picks. Is kind of my thinking there.
Let's see.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, look, last year Devonta Smith had 64 catches for 916 yards, and he had to catch a lot of ugly.
That was without AJ Brown.
That's true. But I've been told that our quarterbacks got much better over the offseason. Our quarterback. I think he catches like 700 yards this year. Touchdowns might stay the same at like 5. Dude's a great route runner, super physical. Yeah, I mean, Kittle gets banged up a lot. You know, I'm not happy about losing that early 23 second. If it was a little bit later, mid or late, I'd be a little bit happier about it. There's a lot of upside in what you're getting. And Kittle is an aging asset. Again, banged up a lot. Hell of a blocker, though, that George Kittle.
Yeah, true. Yeah, another kind of concept, he's still fairly-ish young. I mean, he's getting older. I think he's 28 now, 28 or 29. But, I mean, as long as he was still tight end 4 last year, I'm pretty confident. So
he's going to be 29
this year,
in a couple months. So
okay. So bit of an autocorrect error here. Who do you value more, Rashad Bateman or Elijah Moore? For me, it's Rashad Bateman, and it's not particularly close. I mean, I think Rashad Bateman's likely going to end up after this season a back end wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. Elijah Moore, I think, still hovers in that wide receiver 2 range. Probably at best, it depends. He's going to go as the Jets offense goes, but I'm pretty firmly in the Rashad camp here.
100% agree. Let's see. And I like Elijah Moore, but I'll just take Rashad Bateman over him.
Yeah, same here. 10-team Superflex PPR rebuilding team traded Cup for a 23 first and DJ Moore. I think so. I don't hate this because even though I don't like DJ Moore, and we discussed that a little bit today, reason being is I think you can flip DJ Moore for more, pun intended, on the back end here, where you can dilute another asset to get. I moved DJ Moore. You can rate this trade if you want. I sent DJ Moore and I sent Nico Collins, and I got a 23 first and second, and a 24 second for those 2 assets. And I know a lot of that isn't Nico Collins. So I don't think you necessarily get that exact trade done. I think that kind of a robbery in my opinion, but especially seeing that that's an IDP league too. So there's valuable IDP assets in the second round still, and value gets pushed on the board. But so I don't mind it. I think there's a little more work to do to actually like stack up the trade to make it feel really good. Because if you get, hypothetically, say it's Cooper Kupp for 2 23 first and a 23 second instead of DJ Moore, sounds a little better to me personally. But
Bob, Fizzle Dollars, and by the way, that sounds terrible coming out of my mouth, is also adding in that he has 523 first round picks. And that was the Kittle trade that we were just talking about. So, okay.
yeah,
That makes it a little easier to stomach then.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. I don't mind it.
I'd like to know if you could put in there what your other tight ends are, please. Just I'd like to see what else you have in your tight end room because if you're, I mean, you know, I keep saying Kittle's been banged up. Did play 14 games last year, 910 yards, 6 touchdowns. So career high in touchdowns last year, actually. So you're moving a commodity here that's extremely valuable. Yeah, if that's the case, then I would feel better if that 23 second wasn't in the trade. I think the trades might be a little bit more fair if it's a later pick. That makes sense to you? You know what I mean? Because we're talking about tight ends, man. It's hard to find these elite tight ends. Kyle Pitts is a starter. Oh, I'm sorry. You wrote that at the beginning. My bad. I must have missed that. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
I think you
Then.
just forgot.
Yeah, dude, I'm old.
Stephon Diggs and a 23 second for a 23 first and Chase Claypool. I think there's a little more left to be got. I don't think you should have to send that second personally.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Take the second out, and that trade's a little bit fairer to me.
Yeah. I'm not going to put up this because I don't want YouTube to get mad. But what is the least from our buddy Colin in the Patreon? What is the least you would trade for Michael Thomas right now? Like you have no other options. You want to get rid of Michael Thomas. What's the least valuable asset you take?
Third.
Has
some value.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Thomas is almost 30, by the way.
Yeah.
So we need to. He's wide receiver 38. He's as of 29.3 years old. I mean, you gotta figure something out with Michael Thomas real quick. It's been a while since he had that record-breaking season as well. Let's see.
3 or 4 years now. I think 4 years.
You are a safety. Yeah, it was 2019. And his 2020 season was only 438 yards. Everything before that was over 1,000 yards. Thank you.
Sure.
So it's been a while, but he's almost 30. He's been getting slowed down with injuries. It's time to move. The least I'd take is a third if you don't like the uncertainty, and I hate uncertainty. I mean, even if you're not certain if a player is going to smash or not, but you're certain they're going to play.
Sure.
I'll take that.
So none of your business chiming in. 12
it's
teams.
My
Superflex.
Business now. You're on my YouTube, buddy.
12 teams Superflex start 12. Goff, Claypool, and a 23 second for a 23 first and 23 third. I'm taking the Goff side here.
Same.
I'm pretty big in on Jared Goff. I think he's just perennially going to be hated and supremely undervalued. I think he's the next run of the Derek Carr, Kirk Cousin era.
I'll take
some of their parts, and
you can build teams around guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great asset to have. So I wouldn't move him even for the 23 first. I mean, really, I don't think there's a lot of fair value to be had here. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think I want to do this move at all. Definitely keeping the Goff side. I wouldn't want to send that 23 second if I was.
I agree.
I would be a little more in agreement then, but I think I'd want to get a 23 second back instead of the third to make that deal work, in my opinion.
If you really break this trade down, if whoever's giving the 23 first and 23 third is winning the trade by far and away. I mean, sure. There's a chance Jared Goff got some more weapons. Chase Claypool, quarterback upgrade. I mean, that 23 second could be a really good asset. So I want the package. That's what she said. But I'm all in on Goff. I just did a Patreon episode last week, basically, where I talked about Jared Goff for 20 minutes. So if you'd like to hear that, I could set you up. All I have to do is go to patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. You could hear
it. The ticker is there. The link is in the description as well.
Bob, put the link in the description for me, please.
I already did. It's already there. Dynasty PPR, Treylon Burks or Rashad Bateman, and it's not particularly close for me, I don't think.
Agree.
And that's, not even considering the fact that Treylon Burks is asthmatic and fat, allegedly, and all that. But, I still just want Rashad Bateman. I mean, similar ages, probably a better offense, I would think. The Ravens versus the Titans, you think? That's going to be interesting, actually. I think it's the Ravens
I
because
do
they
too.
more established pieces, I guess, and just better overall pieces around. Outside of like Derrick Henry, that offense is pretty concerning, and even Derrick Henry's kind of concerning this year. So I'll take Rashad Bateman, even long term. I've become very high on
He's
Rashad
only like a
Bateman.
year older than Treylon Burks, I think. So,
If that, I don't know.
and by the way, Bob, you and I have been agreeing way too much today.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
That's all right.
So I'm not used to it. I
All
like it
right.
though. It's kind of nice.
So I own the 23 first of an owner who has one of the non-playoff teams. His main guys have red flags like Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper, Kamara, Josh Jacobs. Thoughts on those players and my chances of a good pick next year? I think you have a good chance. My biggest concerns for this team are probably going to be Lockett and Amari Cooper. Honestly, I am very
I agree. We touched on
seeing
that
that
before.
if Deshaun Watson is not there this year, which it's kind of sounding like it's going to be a year-long suspension, I am very, very concerned. And Josh Jacobs, I don't have a lot of concerns about. I just don't think he's going to be a top-end wide running back one. Kamara might miss 6 weeks. So, I mean, I think you have a good shot as long as they don't add anybody or make any crazy moves. I think there's a good chance you're going to be sitting with a pretty high 23 first.
It's funny too, because 2 years ago, that team would have looked like a contending team with those pieces. Oh, look like McLaurin, people are productive.
Before the
Tyler
season,
Lockett,
maybe.
productive. Yeah, on paper, Amari Cooper, productive. Kamara, Josh Jacobs.
Sure.
A couple years ago, that would have been considered a strong contender. So, but the fact of the matter is, we're sitting here today in June and we're saying you could have a really good pick. We also don't know how savvy is this guy at trading? How good is he at working the waiver wire? Does he make good start sit decisions? So, hey, look, if you own his pick, man, that's a bonus pick and it's a middle of the pack pick, you're still doing okay. You're going to get a really good running back with that pick or wide receiver. So,
agreed.
Happy.
Yeah, 100%.
He doesn't make moves. He listens to me. Well, good. Then tell him to not set a roster every week and you'll be good.
So interesting. So Fizzle Dollars hopping back in. Ooh, it sounds much better when I say it.
It
to go
does
back
not
to the Kittle
sound good when I say it.
It sounds so good when I say it. To go back to the Kittle trade with the 523 first, definitely look into Michael Mayer with one of those picks, which is why I asked about keeping Pitts, moving out from Kittle a year early. If you can make that happen, I think that's awesome because Michael Mayer is going to be. He's not going to have Kittle or
tight end one
type. Easily tight end one next year. I don't think there's even a conversation. So if you can make that happen, I'm fine with it because realistically, Kittle, I mean, he could be a flex play for you, I guess. I just don't know how often you're going to be slotting him in over Kyle Pitts, more than likely. So
bye week, or if Kyle Pitts gets hurt.
Okay, one start. I mean,
looking ahead as well, Fizzle Dollars. Wow, I sound like Michael Scott talking to Daryl in the warehouse right now. You could also take some draft capital and try to obtain a 24 first round pick.
Brock
Bowers from the University of Georgia.
Guy. So good.
Definitely love the last name. Love the way he plays. There's no S on my last name though, but just
close enough.
Close enough. So there's definitely gonna be some guys out there too. I'd also just try to find some like assets, like take some of your junk picks. See if you can get guys like Greg Dulcich, who I think has a really good opportunity in Denver. You know what I mean? Have these Brevin Jordan, stash these guys on your bench, your taxi squad if you can. It's always good to have these backup tight ends because you never know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
This guy likes to make moves. He'll be moving back for years to come. 2 of those first will probably be moved to 24 for sure.
I love it.
Awesome strategy, man. Move down, move into the second, grab a first next year. Awesome move. Works a lot of the time, most of the time. So talk about Michael Scott here. 12 team Superflex, start 11. Wandale, David Bell, I'm assuming, Rashad White, or Olave and Pat Freiermuth. I think I'm going with I want to go Olave and Pat
I'm
Freiermuth
going
here.
Olave and Pat Freiermuth for me.
Yep.
I'm just looking. To me, I'll take Olave over both Wandale Robinson and David Bell.
Yes, agreed. Sure.
And I'll take Pat Freiermuth over, individually either of those guys. I'm gonna take the Olave and the Pat Freiermuth side. I think those assets are much better by themselves or as a package.
I agree. 100%. So we are all caught up on questions, but we do have some that I wrote down from before that are from Coco Thunder, one of
Did
our
you make a
patrons.
graphic?
No, I didn't. I don't have a graphic or nothing. What graphic am I supposed to have?
You could put a little graphic up like when we do the team audits.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll get right on that. So he did ask, which I thought was interesting. He asked us a DST question, and asked if those are even allowed. First off, no, but I am going to answer it anyway. So he asked basically what team in the bottom half last year finished or has a chance to, finish as a top 10 defense. So looking at the Ravens defense, finished 26th last year in DST scoring. Offense is healthy. That's going to be huge. They can actually time manage, run the ball properly. Lamar Jackson likely isn't going to miss 6 or 7 games like he did last year. And their defense got healthy as well. And they added a lot of good rookie pieces like Kyle Hamilton and David Ojabo, who probably not going to play this year, but another year with Jason Owe or Adafe Owe, excuse me. I think will be great. Great additions. I think that Ravens defense is one that I think could probably push for like a top 10 finish, honestly, because the Ravens defense has always been fairly good, especially when they can play their game. So
if you punt that position, Eagles defense, I think, is going to be much improved this year as well.
They were like the 18th, I think. And another one too, I think that was a good one that was kind of cheap to me was the Bengals, who were the 17th.
Were they really?
I think, yeah, they were just outside of the top half. So, but yeah, so that's the DST question out of the way before we get too many of those questions coming in. Tyler Algier versus Rashad White. I think this is interesting because I think for me, long term, it's Rashad White. I don't think there's any question because I think Rashad White at least has some draft capital or better draft capital, the 3rd round draft capital versus Tyler Algier's 4th. I just don't see. I like Algier. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he's necessarily a long term option. He could be a good 1A, 1B though. If you bring in a better running back, it's not a guarantee unless they draft a guy in the 1st round next year that he's going to be worlds better than Algier. But I just like Rashad White overall long term, personally.
Yeah, I agree. Algier could have a better year 1. That's about it.
Sure. And then the last question that Coco Thunder has, and then we got a few more popping in.
Did you
running
write
backs
these down or type them out?
I wrote these down. Sorry.
Cool. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm fancy like. Running backs and wide receivers that nobody is talking about. I know you've discussed a few, talking about some sleepers on the podcast. So I know one that you discussed, kind of MVS, has been kind of lost by the wayside a little bit.
Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis Landry is another one.
Like
running backs are tough because I don't think anybody isn't like. There's not a lot of running backs that nobody talks about anymore because everybody's so.
Like Ronald Jones might be a guy who's, the problem is when you're thinking about these no one talking about guys, you're doing these really deep dives, you're going to have to pay a little bit and go for some really big upside. You know what I mean? Like that's a loaded question. Like Devin Singletary, everyone's on James Cook for some reason. I'm just looking at this list here. Nyheim Hines with Matt Ryan as quarterback could definitely see a resurgence. Matt Ryan does not hate throwing to his running backs.
Sure.
Just scrolling down here. Jesus, I don't know, because I feel like Mark Ingram could be something for 6 weeks. If Alvin Kamara gets suspended.
I got one. Rex Burkhead needs some love, I think, today on this Saturday. No.
Yeah, look, Rex Burkhead could play a very strong role for the Texans. Everyone's talking about Dameon Pierce. Rex Burkhead and Marlon Mack are 2 guys that I think are going to get the run before Dameon Pierce for sure. Geez. I don't know, man. Tyler Beatty could have a nice role in Baltimore, to be honest with you. Kenyon Drake as a backup to Josh Jacobs.
Sure. I like
Sure.
that.
So there's some guys out there, wide receiver wise, like Jarvis Landry. People are just really out on him.
So
Maybe
real quick, just because we're on the topic, Tony Jones or Abram Smith, which do you think gets run first? I think
Tony
I think
Jones.
there's
Guess.
I think Tony Jones gets run first, but I think Abram Smith is the better asset to have because we know what Tony Jones is. We know he's a nothing player,
I don't
in my
think Abram
opinion.
Smith is that good.
I think it's
like
at least I think it's more of the upside swing you're taking, in my opinion. That's just my 2 cents.
Possibility that he's effective. I don't like Abram Smith, man. He's just I don't know. I'm not a fan,
fair
but
enough.
I would rather have neither.
Sure, fair enough. What is some high level strategy that you think is not that you use that you think is not spoken about enough? I have one quick if you need to think about it.
Yeah, I don't have any high level strategy, so you can just go ahead though.
Productive struggle.
I'm specialist in that.
My biggest thing, and we've kind of touched on it here, is and I noticed this when we were doing audits this offseason, and too many teams go into drafts with only the draft capital they're given to, the 1 through 5, the 1 through 6, however many rounds you have, and that's it. I think that's a terrible way to advance your team in a league. I think you need to start stacking picks, making trades where you're not sending all the picks in the world. And the way to do that is to tier down, but tier down wisely. Don't just tier down to a wide receiver 2 that is going to be a wide receiver 2. You make these moves, and I'm going to be honest, sometimes it doesn't pan out, but this is why when you get more draft capital and more things on top of that, it helps. But sometimes you're going to crash and burn when you trade down, because not every Rashad Bateman that you trade down to from AJ Brown is going to pan out and still be a wide receiver 1. But thank God you got draft capital that you can hopefully recoup some value later. But it's things like that I think just so many teams, I don't know if it's just not enough interest or not thinking it's important to add a ton of draft capital, because my best teams always have a crap load of draft capital, always. And I don't have a lot of bad teams, small flex there, but the ones that are struggling or have struggled in the past don't have draft capital.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there because the other thing with adding draft capital and things like that, draft capital is almost always going to go up in value. Almost guaranteed every year, even though people were down talking this class for how long,
back in.
They still want it back in. And I was the same way. Granted, I was in some IDP leagues, but I was actively trying to trade in. Like, there was one league where I had 3 firsts and 3 seconds, and I'm like, I'm probably going to be good with this draft by the time that's done. And everybody reached on everybody. And I'm like, okay, well, I would like to get back into this. And I couldn't, for how bad of a class this was. Nobody wanted to trade their picks.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, and then on the flip coin of that, if there are players that aren't around and you have all this draft capital, you don't have to draft people. When you're in the draft, great time to acquire proven talent for draft picks, proven talent that's on a dip. Tyler Lockett, great example. You probably could have in your draft, in an IDP draft, more than likely, you probably could have gotten him for a 3rd round pick. It's something like that. You could have traded out of the draft, gotten a Tyler Lockett in a deep draft or a late second, something like that, because the world is so down on him right now. Yeah. That's probably like my biggest thing, is just, man, get that draft capital. You have to. Coco Thunder gets it.
Yeah, he gets it. For me, it's diversify your portfolio. Make sure you don't have too many of the same players. Guy gets hurt or he sucks, you're stuck with that. Hats off to my 12 Michael P. Rent shares. And one thing that I found myself saying,
at least they were cheap.
That's true. I don't need that guy. And let me give you 2 examples. Not picking players up off the waiver wire that I should have. 2 examples are Robert Tonyan and James Robinson. Could have really helped me. And obviously those guys got hurt, but I could have sold. You know what I mean? So saying I don't need that guy, put in a waiver claim.
Yeah.
You never know. Yeah. So those are 2 things
100%.
that I've learned lately that I've been applying. Just some things that I've been doing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I don't disagree for that at all. Let's see.
Justin had a really good question up there
Oh
before.
yeah. You're right. Yeah, I missed that one. My bad.
Yeah.
Favorite late round tight end target in startups or
All
redraft?
all over this one, Bob.
Okay, you got this.
Well, Pork was checking in before, so I'm going to have to mention Gerald Everett. It's like a law.
Sure. It's a good
Hayden
one though.
Hurst. Hayden Hurst, I think
Yes.
he's going to smash in Cincy.
Especially in redraft. Love it for redraft.
Evan Ingram could have a really good season in Doug Peterson's system. He's going late. Logan Thomas is getting overlooked. Carson Wentz loves throwing to the tight end for sure. Going late. Brevin Jordan, Greg Dulcich. I'm out on Tyler Higbee though. Let's see. Adam Troutman is tight end 33 right now, which is
I'm
insane.
out on Adam Troutman. I don't want anything to do with the guy.
Well, look, we're talking late in a
I
startup
know.
here.
I
Okay.
know.
And then aside from that, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my old friend Daniel Bellinger.
Look at that.
I have to.
Grown
It's like
so
I
much.
think they wrote that in the law that I have to talk about Daniel Bellinger at least once a month.
Probably.
Chase
Michael Carter
Claypool.
is 23 third for Chase Claypool. Absolutely. I think this is a great out strategy. And I'm not even that big on Chase Claypool, honestly. But I think the 23 thirds are always just kind of good for throw-ins, in my opinion. And if you can get from Michael Carter to Chase Claypool that easily, I'm pretty much all about it. Especially it helps him out too, because you're sending him Michael Carter. So I think it's a pretty awesome move. Moving on to another one here, DJ Moore for Travis Kelce. I think this is an okay move. For me, if you're a tight end away, like if your tight end room just sucks and you have a decent abundance of wide receivers, DJ Moore for Kelce is a great move.
How are you getting Travis Kelce for only DJ Moore?
I just told you I got a 23 first and a 23 second and a 24 second for DJ Moore. The DJ Moore is just the epitome of an overvalued, replaceable asset, in my opinion.
All right,
And
yeah. I mean, I'm making that trade for sure.
Yeah, if it happens, it happens. So, or if you can get it done, get it done.
Do it.
Joe Mixon at a 23 third or Smitty, which I assume is Devonta Smith, for a 24 first.
I think I might go. I guess oh man, that's tough. Because I think Joe Mixon could have a good year. He's got signed to a contract extension. I hate waiting on picks, but I mean, wide receivers definitely better long term in Dynasty. I guess I'll take the receiver in the higher pick.
I'm gonna go with the Mixon side here. I think,
Okay.
just purely off the running back value, just being lower on Smitty. Don't want to wait to. If it was a 23 first, I'd probably take that side, pretty more easily. But if I'm losing a running back, I want to get another running back sooner rather than later, because I doubt I just have running backs laying around on my team. I don't have a lot of teams that are like that. I have a few teams where I have two solid starters, but the rest are usually one solid starter and then rotation pieces is usually how I roll. Just got some nice notes here. Thanks, Fizzle.
Thank you.
Ja Webb, appreciate it. Kevin chiming in. Appreciate you guys hopping on. Bored at work. We are not bored at work, but we appreciate you chiming in. The 106 was traded in my league 6 times since January. My draft was last week, and Jahan Dotson was the pick.
It's not
I don't
terrible.
love it.
Okay, let me ask you this: Jahan Dotson at the 1-6 or George Pickens at the 1-4?
Oh, I'm Dotson 100%.
Look, John Dotson's a guy I've been on his radar for a while. And if you don't know me, if this is the first time you're seeing me fizzle, John Dotson lived 20 minutes away from me. I'm in Eastern Pennsylvania. So I've been a fan of his since high school, and he went to Penn State. I'm a Penn State fan. I think it's a good spot for him. So I'll read this one. You drink coffee. Hidden sleeper, Devin Duvernay or Marquez Callaway? And the answer could very well be neither of them. But of the two, I think Marquez Callaway probably has the better opportunity in that offense than Devin Duvernay will. I think if I'm remembering what Nate said correctly, Devin Duvernay has been mostly relegated to a special teams role,
Yeah.
possibly. So
Yep.
Callaway definitely has probably a better opportunity, I would say.
Fair enough. All right. A little bit of a fun one here. Oh, maybe. There we go. Top 3 favorite players you've ever rostered. Mine would be Marion Barber, Rip, CJ2K, and Tyreek Hill. Who are yours, Michael? I think one of mine off the rip, Justin Jefferson. Like I said, loved him as a prospect. Love having him on most of my leagues. Scooped him up late, first, early, second in most of my drafts. So I'm a big fan of that, especially the value I got him for in my drafts. It's probably my number 1, even though it's recent. A little probably recency bias there. If we're looking at the defensive side of the ball, if you want to talk some IDP, Landon Collins is easily my favorite IDP I've ever rostered. He was on my first championship team, was like one of the first IDPs I drafted, and the only player on that team still there to this day. So even though he's not on an NFL team, which I might have to make the sad cut and be very sad for a little bit. But any to throw in for you, Mike?
So this is going to sound weird. I love Devin Singletary because where I got him and his production, I got him here in his production, and people are always trying to get him off me. I'm not trading Devin Singletary, so he's helped me with, and man, that's a hard question. I don't know if I really necessarily have favorites. Like, do I just like the player? Yeah, okay. Well, then I always liked having LaDainian Tomlinson. I guess I'm showing my
Great
age
player
here a little bit, but I loved me some LaDainian Tomlinson. And I always loved having Mark Andrews on my team too. It's the guy that I always tried to get him. Yeah, Singletary. I love Devin Singletary, man. Here's the thing. I got Devin Singletary so late in all the drafts that I got him in. And he's just been so productive over the last couple of years. He's been a great flex play, great RB3 guy for me. It's like I don't have to worry about that position.
Yeah. And something you need to learn about Mike is he loves those lower tiered guys that are still good enough.
So. Yeah, give me just good enough. That's like the epitome of my life. Just good enough.
All right. Dynasty 10 team PPR. I'm in a full rebuild. Would you trade Austin Eckler and an early 23 second for Higgins and a later 23 first? Also, would you trade McLaurin for Bateman straight up? I definitely do the Bateman trade. Done deal. Anytime, any day of the week.
Do it.
Looking at the other one,
you're paying too much for
which side
first. I feel like you might. I hate giving up the 23 second in there as well. You know what I mean? Eckler himself might not be worth Higgins and the 23 first. That might be leaning the Higgins side. But I feel like it's Eckler and a lesser pick or a lesser commodity to get that trade done. I feel like the 23 second is a bit of an overpay.
What if you did Eckler for Higgins and a 23 second?
That's great.
Okay.
I think that's completely understand pivot. Being in a rebuild, wanting to get Austin Eckler off your team.
Absolutely. 100% agreed.
You gotta be pretty close to done, right, Bob?
Yep. We are getting there.
I will not trade for Damian Harris. Thoughts on Damian Harris worth trading for in Dynasty? Nope.
Yeah. Or Deontay Harris. I don't want him either.
Yeah, there's just too many running backs in the New England room. And it's going to be a convoluted situation. I don't want any part of it. Unless I'm stashing these guys late in drafts and hoping that something happens like a Pierre Strong or a Kevin Harris. You're getting these guys 4th, 5th rounds of your rookie drafts, and you're okay stashing them on your taxi for a while. But I'm out on Damian Harris.
Yeah, me as well. Let's rank these running backs. Etienne, Gibson, or Hall. For me, it's Hall, Etienne, Gibson. Pretty easily there. Yeah, I love Etienne's upside. I think he has the upside to be better than Hall, personally, just because I think, with the receiving ability, which I think Hall has too. But I would like to think Hall is actually going to be in a better offense.
I do too. Yeah, I actually think Hall's a better prospect than Etienne as well.
So, real opinion on Miles Sanders in 2022 and beyond. What's his trade value? Early 2023 first, I believe, or no, it was mid 23 first. Early 22 second. No, excuse me.
You got to have that backwards.
Yes. Mid 23 second. Early 22nd second. There we go. Words. A lot of twos in there. My bad. But yeah, that's about what it was compared to key trade cut last I looked. Just happened to be looking around for Miles Sanders info. So I think around there is probably the best case scenario. What are your thoughts on him long term?
I love Miles Sanders. I'm an Eagles fan. I'm a Penn State fan. Let's not forget, Miles Sanders has averaged over 5 yards a carry in his career. He's a very good running back. He's had some injury issues. He's a running back. Running backs tend to have injury issues. You know what I mean? It just happens. As far as beyond, I don't know. I actually think the Eagles extend him this year. I think they want him to be the guy. They have done nothing to bring in any sort of competition aside from Kennedy Brooks, who is just vanilla. He just is what he is. He's kind of a plotter. He's not anything special. So I'm trying to acquire Miles Sanders right now if I can, to be honest with you, and I'm taking a shot on the upside. The offense is going to be more pass heavy than it was last year, but it's still going to be run heavy. With a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, you can't pass the ball too much. He's not that guy to throw the ball 50 times a game. He's not. I think you're going to see a really, really balanced Eagles offense this year. I think it's going to creep towards like 50-50. 50% run, 50% pass. So I'm high on Miles Sanders. I don't think he's going to be a running back one. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, the guy can break runs off from any part of the field. So I'm happy to get him. Probably a short window. I'd say you're probably in a maximum 4-year window for a guy like Miles Sanders.
2 to 4, I think. At best.
But I love Miles.
Yeah, I'm a little lower on him, but I think if you're picking him up at a second round pick, especially this year, an early second round pick, I don't hate it. There's only a couple wide receivers I'd prefer there. I think, you're looking at guys like John Mechie and Alec Pierce, I think are guys that I like there. I
love John Mechie, by the way.
A bit of a touch on this, and I more so want to touch on the fact of the free agency and what the running back landscape is going to look like real quickly. Surely Damian Harris will move after free agency next year. There's a good chance he's going to be a free agent next year. But the problem with that is that the running back landscape is about to get scary with how many great rookies are coming in, how many great elite level talents are going to be free agents next year as well. Damian Harris is going to be real low on people's priority list. I mean, he's going to be outside the top 10 running backs, probably top 20 running backs when you factor in rookies too. So I would not be counting on Damian Harris as a free agent success story going to another team, personally. Real quick, we just got a couple more here. I've done some digging on how my draft will go July 9th, shaking my head. A little late, I'm assuming, for your liking. Breece Hall, Walker, Cook, Pierce, and Spiller are expected to go top 7. Man, we were just talking about not overdrafting running backs, and that is in a 10-team, 1-quarterback league. That is wild.
You need to get some late first round and second round picks.
Yeah, I was going to say you need to get around that pick 8 because you're gonna have wild value sitting at the 8th pick.
Oh my God! I mean, there's going to be, John Dodson's going to be out there, Pickens going to be out there. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah. I'd love to. You know what? I want you to touch base and let us know how that draft goes.
Yes,
I'm curious. Definitely. I want to see how that draft goes.
Yes, I agree. What should I try to get for DJ Moore and Pittman individually? DJ Moore, I mentioned a trade that I got done a while back, a 23 first, second, and 24 second. I don't think you're getting, and I also threw in Nico Collins. That should be mentioned. So I don't think you're necessarily getting that deal done. I think, like I said, I kind of got lucky with that. Some highway bobbery going on there. But Pittman, I think you're probably looking for less for Pittman, honestly. I think you're getting less for Pittman in most circles. Second. Yeah, and I don't think it's worth selling him at this point for that, in my opinion.
I'm keeping Michael Pittman. Yeah, I like Michael Pittman as a prospect, and I'm fine with having him if he's like your wide receiver 2 on your team. Completely fine with that. Would you take Michael Pittman or Devontae Smith?
Pittman.
Okay.
Just because I'm confident he's the one on his team.
I'm happy with either, to be honest with you.
Sure. Yeah, I think.
John Webb, DM Bob the details about your league.
Yes, probably. All right, I got offered a 24 first and 23 second for DJ Moore and Marlon Mack. Do I take that? I would if you can get it to be a 23 first and a 24 second instead.
Yeah, you're waiting too long to recoup that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
flip it.
recoup the max value.
Yeah, flip
Yeah.
it 23 first and 24 second, and I'm all in.
Yeah, I'm fine with that deal as well because I think DJ Moore covers that, and I don't think Marlon Mack is going to do anything. He might be a serviceable plotter, but I don't think he's going to be anything exceptional where he's going to be a top 16 running back this year. So that's where I'm at on that. But I think that is about all the time we have today, Mike. We did
That
it.
was fun.
We got through them all. This was a blast.
Should we do this more often, Bob?
I think we should. I think we should do this like once a month
Every day.
or something like that. Not every day.
Okay.
Every day would be cool if we had the time for it. If we were, if we had the time. So,
well, there's a way to get content like this every day, and that is to make sure that you subscribe to this channel, that you head on over to patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. You support the team. $1 tier gets you in our amazing Discord chat where you get to ask us questions all the time. And it's not just me, it's not just Bob, it's the rest of the squad too. $5 tier gets you a bonus podcast. We do one every single week. Written content, you get our rankings on our Notion database. So, hey, if you like us, thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Consider checking out our Patreon. Make sure you subscribe to our audio podcast as well. It comes out every Wednesday morning. So, Bob, would you like to say goodbye to everybody?
Man, I just want to say this was a blast. Looking forward to doing this a little more often, and who knows how often we end up doing it down the road. But once a month, I think, is a good mark we can hit. And this was a blast. Really enjoyed just fielding questions from the community and helping y'all out. Hope this was fun for y'all as it was fun for me as well.
Yeah. So, all right. For Bob, I'm your host, Michael Bauer. Until next time, everybody, be kind. Please rewind. Thank you for watching. Oh, should I play the outro video? I will.
Nah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye.